Here is part of my show reel from 2017. I believe that when people are happy in set, it also makes the final product better. It's not easy to explain why. Maybe it's just the general atmosphere that affects everyone's performance, even mine. I have regular clients and athletes that I have been working with more than once. Probably it tells that they have been happy to work with me, or at least I hope so. Filming in Abu Dhabi was an amazing experience. The tunnel is so big that it was hard to even imagine how it would be like to film in there. It was really exciting project, and there was possibilities to shoot in a way that it's not possible in any other tunnels. Sometimes it almost felt like skydiving. And of course, performers Maya and Kira were doing excellent job. They had only 3 days to create and perform the whole routine, and we managed to film it during that short time period. It is interesting to see where the sport will evolve in the future with tunnels like that. And of course, it opens new possibilities for filming, commercials and stunts. Well, it's hard to say. It might be that when there is more and more tunnels, they have to commit to marketing and stand out. In my opinion, there's a room for marketing that would benefit the sport as a hobby and as something that is more than just one-time experience. There are a lot of potential customers in between first-timers that only fly once and the competing athletes. I would say it's both, like in every other sport. Compared to commercials, documentaries are way more time-consuming. In commercials, it's easy to control what people say, but documentaries might reveal something that we don't know yet about the sport. I like doing both. It's a really wide question and would take a lot of time to answer, but shortly I would approach it like on any other event. Maybe it would be useful to look similar projects from some mainstream sport as an inspiration. In my opinion, the sport should always be the center. But obviously, when we tell the background stories of the athletes, it brings them closer to the audience. Usually people are not only fans of the performance, but the character as well. Yes, of course, why not? Like every other sport. It just needs to be made in a way that it's easy to follow. Like Mason Corby said, even if you start watching from the middle, you need to know straight away who is leading. Once again, indoor skydiving could take inspiration from mainstream sports that are already popular. Okay guys, I need to go. Thank you for listening and have a great day. Try to understand what all the fuss is about. Fly it to myself. I built
I believe he is right now in Korea. I mean, he's traveling at a really crazy pace. He has been in China last week and did this, I think, beginning of the last week, and now went to Korea. He made a very interesting observation that ties in with a comment you made. Look to other sports for inspiration in terms of telling stories, and you mentioned one that it's not the first one you associate with indoor skydiving.
Yeah, so I was talking about this earlier. We've been hearing a lot of people talking here about marketing our sport through the competitions, which is an important aspect, but also the first skateboarding competition that I watched was a year ago. But I feel like I've been following skateboarding for a lot longer. I've been seeing it in movies, I've been seeing it in TV. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos I know names of skateboarders, I've seen documentaries. And this is the marketing work that I feel like myself and also Lauri have been doing for you. I've worked with him in a lot of these projects. And this is what we've been trying to do for years, to kind of like get the sport out of the competitions, out of our community, and out there in the world, so that the little kids somewhere there around the world can watch movies where there's indoor skydiving featured, and then hopefully the dream of becoming a professional indoor skydiver is going to already grow from there. Yeah, and I think he's doing an amazing job. What has been a conversation that we had several times with Lauri while we were doing, for example, the Apple commercial that you guys saw clips of, is how are we going to present, or how are we going to find kind of the compromise between what do people want to see and that we are at the same time showing something that we can be proud of. Because if you go to any indoor facility and you watch what the first timers are excited to see, it's when the instructor pops up in their demo. This is not something that we want to be showing about our sport, but we need to kind of find the in-between of what can people relate to, what they find exciting, and what satisfies our egos as athletes at the same time, so that we can then, push the sport further and feel like it's going to a direction that we're happy with.
Could I suggest a way of proceeding from here? I mean, we have probably one of the world's most experienced and with a broad experience sport sports broadcaster here, and I'm almost certain you have questions that you are wondering what should we do. And you've seen now, he's finished, but this looked like a Swedish smorgasbord, a little bit of everything. I think that was that's how he works. But, I mean, as you heard, he has given it a lot of thought. What would I have to do to really draw somebody's attention to the evolution in a competition, or to the personality of one of the stars? How about you, Domi? Ask Hagen something you wanted to know about the television formats that are available. And
oh, wow, I was not expecting that question.
Me either.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is very important that that kind of conversation happens, and right now on the spot might not be coming up with the most smart questions, but there is definitely a lack of communication between our world and your world, and that's really the gap we need to bridge, I believe. Personally, I've been very involved in competition, and how do we make that better is one of my concerns, but as a future tunnel operator that's going to open in between a huge theme park and a 6,000 people sports arena, I'm also very interested in developing shows and bringing indoor skydiving to a broader audience as a spectacle. Now, who do we contact, who do we lobby, and how do we get in touch with the channels that have the opportunity to make us bigger, I guess, would be my question to you.
I mean, we from the World Games, we are familiar with that discussion from different sports we have in our program. And I mean, the video we have seen from the director here made it obvious again, your problem is not that your sport is not attractive from the visibility. Your problem is not that you have great athletes. Some of them are here. That's definitely not the problem of your sport. Other sports, they have to think, okay, how we can create some pictures that is thrilling for spectators. That's not your problem. I guess the challenge for you, I wouldn't say a problem, it's a challenge, is how to tell our story to a broader spectatorship. And that's what I've learned today in your discussion here. And if I may say this as an external, on the one hand, I feel all the passion from the stakeholders from your sport, for business ideas, for competition ideas. There's a lot of passion and commitment. On the other hand, you are still discussing some basic questions from your sport, what you don't have solved so far. It's beginning from standard for wind tunnels, or the competition between different manufacturers of wind tunnels. It goes further to competition formats. Is it the World Championship or World Cup or whatever? So, and all these questions, that is a gap to your dream to become an Olympic sport. You know, my experience is you have to do, as a federation or a sport, you have to do your homework first before you sell your product. Some of the federations, they don't like the expression of a product, because we talk about the sport and athletes, of course, but before you can promote your brand of your sport, you have to do your homework. That's what I want to say.
What do you reckon is an appropriate time frame? Because I very much agree with what Tom was saying earlier. We need to go away from 3 days of people screaming everything is awesome to something that's like 2 or 3 hours that can be followed. I think cricket had the problem recently that their game is way too long, and they're changing their format.
Wine drinking event, the cricket match.
Fair enough. Okay, let's keep the 3 days screaming. Make it a drinking game out of it. But I think that's our main problem.
I totally agree, Domi. Two things. One is to evaluate your formats, and probably to create part of the format for the event on site, for the spectators on site, and then to create like a TV format or media format. It's not only television, for the final decision, whatever. I was part of a working group back in the 90s, installed by the Biathlon Union. And they had invited a marketing expert, 2 TV experts, one from Norway and myself from Germany, and one from the federation. And we started to evaluate the sport of biathlon. And at that time, the disciplines, I mean, that was more or less, they disappeared in the forest, they came back for shooting, they disappeared in the forest again, they came back for shooting. and the production was on a really low level. And all what you've seen today in the Olympic program, the mass start, the mixed relay, the pursuit, the upgrade of the production, the integration of more graphics, that was built up in that working group. And what you mentioned before, the integration of augmented reality or data, or we are working on different projects with our sports for the next World Games with virtual graphics to explain spectators what's going on there. I mean, you as expert, of course, you see immediately who is good, who is not that good. But I'm, as an amateur or outsider, I do not see this. And I just can tell you from the technology side, there are huge opportunities in the meantime to develop some virtual graphics and to say, okay, that would be the perfect case, and now let's have a look on the athlete, what he is doing. So, and you are a modern, fresh sport, you definitely have to work with that kind of technology. And technology, if I may say this, it's often an opportunity to make this possible through cooperations with companies. You know, to set up a structure of events, to improve your wind tunnels, that is difficult and that needs investment. But these technology side, it's often possible to make that or to enable that through cooperation with technology companies. So just some remarks.
Keep the geek working.
Yeah.
Someone else with a question for Hagen?
Yeah, what about athletes? Like this, if I'm thinking watching other sports that I would like to be following, there's always this like emotional contact that you build not just because what you're watching, but who you're watching. Mm-hmm. Like we know the athletes, we know a lot about the background stories, and then we end up following other stuff that they're doing as well, not just the competition. So like Tom's was talking about earlier, making people rock stars. And I feel like this is something that's missing a little bit. I had my first chance of commentating now at the Wind Games, and I feel like I had time to say nothing about the people. It's like, hey, this is Thompson, he used to be a breakdancer, and he has a big smile on his face, go. And that's not enough information, in my opinion, to build that connection.
I was wondering that when I've seen your videos today, you know, what makes rock stars? The performance, not to say show, it's a performance, and you are doing, in my understanding, you are doing a great performance, but that's only one side, the other side is the emotion. Mm-hmm. And that, what I was wondering, how could you show the emotions in your sport, your emotions, your happiness, your disappointment, whatever. I mean, of course you have a helmet and anything, it's a challenge for director, for movie makers, how to show, and we talk about, not about commercial spots, we talk about broadcasting of your main events. How can I communicate about your emotions, what you have? Of course you have it in, I mean, you are athletes, so you are emotional. So that's one of the challenges. I do not have the solution here, but that is missing, because the relationship between viewers or users and online offers and the sports, the relationship is based on emotions. They want to feel with the athletes they follow, and you can prepare it through your social media activities. That is really smart, what you're doing, and that is part of your homework, to be honest, to build up this network from your sports. The athletes, the organizers, the federation, the wind tunnels. Of course, you have to connect each other, you have to like each other, and to build up this social ecosystem for your community. But this is just the basis. You want to grow. You know, you want to go further outside your community, and therefore you need, of course, broadcast partners, and therefore I guess the value from the World Games is really there, because during the World Games, I mean, not for your sport, but for air sports, for the disciplines we have in the program at the moment, we can offer that platform. We have broadcast partners in 100 countries. So, if I may say this, one of my strategic targets for your sport would be to be integrated into different multi-sports events. You have to see what is possible with your governmental body, but is it the World Games, is it Asian Games, Commonwealth Games, University Games, wherever, but that is an existing platform what you could use with your cool pictures you are able to produce.
You said cool pictures, and obviously you pretty much insinuate that the important part is getting the story across and then telling about these fabulous and charismatic people. And we had Kira, the 18-year-old from Singapore. I mean, she's 18, you're already of a certain age. There are youngs, we've seen this morning a 7-year-old from right here. But somehow this sport seems to attract very, very above average, charismatic people like
But Roland, that's not, I mean, you know many sports from the World Games as well, and these athletes are the best ambassadors. I do not want to, I mean, in Germany, the journalist, and I used to work as a journalist as well, we say it's different to make an interview with a football player or other athletes, you know, and from other athletes there comes so much passion and commitment for your sport, so that's definitely not the problem. The athletes are there, they are committed, they are willing to do something, and so this is organized, but now you have to find ways to communicate it.
Exactly, and that they're committed. The fact that you would take part in this, I mean, this shows your commitment. It's not normal that a competitor says, "Hey, I'm going to go."
And I like your approach. I mean, of course, we could discuss the idea to do it in New York, but I like the approach to find the optimized version. You know, sometimes it's good to dream to find the right direction.
Exactly. Now, Josh, what would be, I mean, right now you weren't able to compete, but like obviously you were watching on location, on site, and
judging.
Okay. If you are not on site, how much are you really relying on a streaming to get the news and the evolutions of a competition taking place somewhere where you're not?
All of it. Well, because I'm in the community, you know, I know people on Facebook and Instagram, so I'm going to be able to see posts of people that are there. But for someone who's not in the community, they only have access to the live, which is on a website that they need to try and find somewhere. So they would already have to be in the community to understand where this website is. So it's not really accessible to people outside the community.
At the same time, I mean, we heard figures like 250,000 live stream. I mean, that's respectable. I mean, but put it in perspective. Rainer, what's your record for a major like World Cup or a World Championship? You know? I can tell you, it's probably more than that, but not much more. I mean, you're
yes,
right.
But climbing, in the meantime, climbing has a combination between TV contracts and online distribution. I just can tell you, if you really have that figures of 250,000, go for it, because that's a lot. I mean, Joachim and myself, we know the figures from the Olympic channel. Unfortunately, we know the figures from the World Games channel. We are running by ourselves. Woo, this is such a tough competition, and I do not mention the sports, but sometimes we have less than 100 users worldwide if we broadcast a continental or world championship. So if you have 250,000, that would be amazing, and that is a perfect basis to grow, you know.
But now, also, if you take the 250,000 and you divide it by the number of hours you're webcasting, it's not really all that massive anymore. And we discussed this, Rainer. You can overdo it. Very often, less is more, no?
Yeah, but your media strategy have to cover both. You have to stream your events, you have to make your events available for your community and fans, and you have to promote the events in a way that the community is growing. That's one part. But the other part is pieces. To put pieces on social media, entertaining pieces from your sport, or to find a way through agencies, what was mentioned before in the panel, through agencies to come into the news shows, which gives you, it's only 30 seconds maybe, but of course it gives you a huge reach for viewers. So it's always in both directions, to manage your community and then to find the way to promote pieces of your sport in news shows and social media to attract more and more people.
And this being the digital age, I mean, it's all dominated by digital. And 2009 was that Olympic Congress in Denmark where they said, let the kids play. And I mean, to me, it's costing an effort, Facebook and all this, but to all of you, it comes natural, and it's part of the mix, and then it is a mix. That's what you would suggest, no?
Exactly. I wouldn't limit it to one point, and I mean, so far we do not speak about million contracts with broadcasters. You do not have to cover exclusivity, that comes later, but now you should use all the ways of distribution you have available. You know, if you have a stream, if you have a production, and if you have integrated some new, fresh technologies, then distribute it. Or if Facebook Watch or your website or Olympic Channel, whatever you can have on a at the moment, I would say, on a non-exclusive basis to promote the sports, and then it comes to the point that in your main markets like France or maybe in other markets, they will ask, a broadcaster will ask, that has a value for me, I would pay something for exclusivity. But that is the second step, not the first step, in my understanding.
Absolutely. I think you're the specialist here. You know exactly how it works. Rights fees, I mean, I don't think so, no?
No, it's to be honest, it's far away. Yeah, it's too early. But that you have to make available other resources, your sponsors or sometimes fees. But for rights fee, it's too early.
Yeah, these big numbers that we're seeing has mostly come from the Wing Games, and it all started from when one person got in and did a routine to music, and then it went online and it got shared everywhere on YouTube and social media. And then and that hit up, and it's just, Anne knows the numbers, it was millions and millions of people that were seeing these videos. And because of that, and it's got the Wing Games, the logo on it, and everybody sees that, now when the Wing Games is on, people know, oh, it's the Wing Games, so they can go into it. And I think what is not really the competition itself that people are tuning into, is seeing these performances and looking at these people. And I think we should also concentrate a lot on making these performances, like what Mad do with Inka. I think we should create these things for people, for the public to connect with, rather than just focusing on the competition format and the sport. We should focus on the athletes and making these shows that people can connect to and getting those numbers up, not just for the Wing Games, but for all the competitions.
One thing needs to be said. Well, Wing Games, in my opinion, I've been looking around. I've seen two competitions actually live. One is the Wing Games. The other one was when you did the commentary of the World Championship in France. I was impressed by both. In terms of brand, in terms of the way it looks and feels and so on and so forth, I think Wing Games is pretty much top of the line. They have a very, very strong brand that I perceive as such. And I think, other than that, it's also a matter of discipline. I mean, you have the Wing Games with Monica Moyano. They have a top-notch professional doing communications, and that's key. I mean, she's getting this stuff out everywhere, and that's chapeau. Now, I saved Tom's intervention for something that I have been doing for the last 12 years, 11 years. I've worked for the World Dance Sport Federation as a communications director, first as a consultant, then a communications director. That's where we met on a number of occasions. And we are one of the federations, unlike Rangers, that spent a hell of a lot of money to really make this decisive step. And we didn't lobby, but we really came up with new formats that cost a lot in developing in terms of money and also creativity and so on and so forth. And probably in my professional life now, after skydiving, I'm proud of one thing. And that's this breaking campaign that we did. And I think it was a good campaign that got us the foot in the door. We got picked for the Youth Olympic Games, and we were facing major problems. I mean, bringing people from all over the world to a World Championship, 12-year, what is it, Youth Olympic Games? It's 14 to 16, I think we had. And so it was not obvious, and then between a lot of it, we came up with an idea that's thinking outside the box 100%. And Tom and I did talk a little bit about this. I think it's an idea that would be 100%, 100% and applicable to some of your disciplines. We ran the qualifier for the Youth Olympic Games, first federation ever to do this, digitally, online. People were not competing at a location. They were recording themselves, sending in a video. We had a panel of judges. They judged it. It took a little bit of time. Logistics were pretty heavy. And I really had the good fortune for the past 25 years with a bunch of people who are doing our streams now. Come on, guys, let's bring this on. So, okay, that's them right here. We're basically 3-4 people working now for the last 25 years on different sports, some of them air sports, some of them World Game sports. We did even things for the World Games at one point. And this is what we are the most proud of. Can we roll the breaking for gold?
To take you closer to the Youth Olympic Games. It doesn't matter where you're from or what battles you've been in. Even if you've never battled, you can compete to qualify. Show us your best all-in-one breaking set up to 45 seconds long. This set will be your first qualification step towards the 2018 Youth Olympic Games in Buenos Aires. If you were born in 2000, 2001, or 2002 and are ready to show and prove that you belong amongst the best to break at the Buenos Aires 2018 Youth Olympic Games, this is what you do. You go to breakingforgold.com and download the Stage 1 qualifying rules. Read the rules once to make sure that you get everything right in your recording. You also select and download the breakbeat track that you intend to use for your set. Then find the location you want to record a set up to 45 seconds long with your best breaking combinations. You set up a camera or have a friend do it for you. The camera angle must be low, shot from the floor level in actual speed, showing your entire body without any zooms or pans. Your breaking set should be recorded towards the camera as if you're facing another breaker in a battle. Recorded in one continuous set up to 45 seconds, no more. Recording your set in pieces and editing are not allowed. Your breaking set must be performed to the breaks track that you have selected from the ones provided by our DJs and not to any other music. The music track must be audible in the recording, no dubbing. The judges want to see your best breaking skills in your recording. Remember, our judges will assess your overall ability based on the quality of skills that you show them in just one set. Once you have recorded your best set up to 45 seconds long, read through the rules again to avoid any mistakes in submitting the video file together with all the other elements that are required. You will need to fill out the online registration form on breakingforgold.com and to upload a scanned copy of your ID card or passport, plus a signed parental or legal guardian consent form. Once this is done, you will have taken the first steps on the road to Buenos Aires competing for a spot in the 2018 Youth Olympic Games. These are the judges that will make all the calls from stage 1 all the way through to the Youth Olympic Games. Even if you do not qualify to the next stage, you will benefit from their expert feedback on your breaking. Good luck to everybody. Hope to see you in Buenos Aires. Peace.
I know. Thanks, guys. Honestly, it took off, but it also, they're the world's biggest procrastinator. We had a window of 100 days. We were about 10 days out. We probably had, I don't know, 100 people, 150, and they all waited for the last 2 days. And then we had all the servers breaking down, everything went wrong and this and that, but like, we got a pat on the shoulder for like thinking in this, no, not yet.
But the result was amazing,
absolutely
Roland.
amazing.
I was been there in Buenos Aires. I've seen the competitions, and I can give you one internal information from the Olympic Channel. The Youth Olympic Games were completely streamed on the Olympic Channel, and they had an internal ranking of the most popular sports. They never published it because they do not want to blame the traditional sports. Because of number one was 3x3 basketball. That was not a surprise because an Argentinian team was involved. But number two was breaking, number three was climbing. That means these young sports, these dynamic sports with a very attractive visibility, what is your sport as well, they are really digital and they are accepted by the young audience through this way of distribution. That should give you hope and should motivate you to go this way further.
Well, I don't have anything to do with that sport anymore, but what I'm trying to really get out of Tom's now, could this work in indoor skydiving?
For sure. I think this idea we were talking with Josh, then the tunnel could be battling against the tunnel, and we could find the best flyers, and maybe not all of them can have the opportunity to come here to Spain. Some instructors are just instructors, and they can afford maybe only a refrigerator to buy. But if we would see the best of their skills, maybe there would be sponsors who would then pick up them and buy the tickets for them to come to the World Cup. So I think the idea is like genius, and we need to try it.
And I think also crucial, you mentioned before, hundreds of millions of views generated by a video that very heavily depended on music. And I recognized the music because I saw the movie a few days or a few weeks ahead of the Wing Games. Bohemian Rhapsody. In terms of music rights, I don't think this has been properly addressed by anybody, not by the Wing Games, not by the FAI, not by anybody.
It's been talked about a lot.
It's being talked about. I mean, but here, it's part of the culture, and he as a b-boy, obviously you would have the edge over everybody else. But as a b-boy, you have a matchup between two opponents. It's basically performed to music. The music is generally auto-generated, which means you have a disc jockey there that takes a little bit of vinyl, scratches, does this, that, and screams, and all of a sudden you have the basic hip-hop hit rhythm that goes all the way through. Music rights resolved. In terms of logistics, don't get it any cheaper than that. And then it's only a matter, would it be acceptable for your community to compete on a level like this, like based on music, based on
in a battle format that you're improvising into the music, basically? What's the big difference between dancing and flying is how you can generate movement. And Tom's knows this as well, like versus being on the dance floor and doing the moves. In the wind, it takes a longer time to create a power and the setup for certain moves. So it's a little bit more challenging environment for that than actually being on the dance floor and doing a breakdance battle. So I think the improvisation is harder. Another huge thing is like when you think of any dancer, since they're little when they start learning dancing, that's all done to music, and they are studying music at the same time. Flyers don't do that. There's still a huge part of flyers who are performing to music, but they're not even listening to the music, or it's just a background music. And now if we are gonna have people battling where the music plays such a huge role, I feel like our skill level, the skill level that we're showing, is doing this. So we need to grow with the music, and we need to teach people about the music before we can have music playing such a huge part in our sport.
But just to kind of add this, it's a comment that breaking made it, and Latin and standard didn't make it, has a lot to do with this improvisation. You go out there, show your stuff, you throw it down, that's what they call it now, throw down your routine. And all the other ones, I mean, they take the more standard approach. Listen to the music, roll with it, and that's part of the culture, of the breaking culture. I mean, these guys, this sport got started. It's not a sport, it's an art, it's a culture.
Yeah, so
in New York.
So I think it's more attractive because it's live. It's not a plastic. It's not something you create 2 years ago. You were practicing the routine and then you show it. Like it's not alive. But if it's gonna be improvisation with the music, it's gonna be harder. It's gonna take time for sure to catch up. But it's gonna be like eye-catching. Like you wanna see how the guy improvised because it's not something you prepared. It's you go there and then actually like it's alive. Like you wanna see it, and it's not something. I think it's just perfect.
It definitely has a different
It's
energy
radical.
for sure.
It's radical. I guarantee you that. And it was too radical for the World Dance Sport Federation. Almost really imploded because two cultures that are not really 100% compatible had problems.
There's also one little detail when the difference between flying and dancing is that in a wind tunnel, you don't hear stuff so well. So to hear your music while you fly, you need to have in-ear pieces, which at the moment, nobody really wants to look into it, but I'm pretty sure that it's really not doing any good to anybody's audition, and especially you've got a bunch of kids flying to music from a very early age with really loud stuff, because I've flown with them, like they need to be loud for you to hear it over the wind, and now there's like, are we damaging kids audition for the sake of creating something visually cool? Like we have some technical and I dare to say some medical issue to solve before we start pushing this on the world stage, I think. Otherwise it's going to clash back at us.
Yeah, every competition there's technical issues with the music as well, like people are jumping in the tunnel, their music is not playing, so that's a huge thing that we need to work on. So.
I think it's technical side and you can resolve it, but still then in that case if we fly to the music, it's gonna be more personality coming out of every athlete, and that's something that I'm missing, and we were talking about this in US, that's what we miss in competitions, that now everyone's kind of the same, and we miss that it's kind of going the same path and nothing changes. So I think that would bring the fresh breeze in the sport.
I find this really interesting, your discussion, because I'm pretty sure that that's what you have to expect for the future. On the one hand, you want to modernize your sport through your discussion with event organizers or marketers. They want to be cool, music, whatever, independently from the music. Maybe they have other stuff. On the other hand, you don't have to touch the core of a sport. That's my understanding if I work with federations. So you have to define what is the core of our sport. Take the example of sports climbing. I mean, the main driver for the media was speed climbing, what we've seen before, like the spiders. But if you talk with the community of climbing, they say,
they hate it.
This is not really climbing. We are boulders, or lead is traditional climbing. But the main driver was the modern one. So it was a huge internal discussion. That's what I want to say, and that you are facing this discussion, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, thank you very, very much. You're concluding. I really would like you to make the final statement after having seen a little bit of Wing Games yesterday. No, you.
Okay, I'll do it.
We really have to take advantage of you. You have seen the Wing Games yesterday. You have probably seen half an hour in total. Do you like what you see?
Yes, of course, I did, definitely. And I said, there's no doubt that you have a value in your sport. What I would like to suggest is be realistic, don't dream too much, and go step by step. And then you will find the direction. But evaluate your sport, evaluate the situation where you are now, and then go step by step, not only follow your dreams.
I think that's a nice remark to conclude. And what I'd like to do now is I've seen this by chance this year. You remember a Paralympian? She committed suicide after she had a muscular disease, and before she competed at the highest level. She was, I think, 3 times gold medal winner in Paralympic Games, and she couldn't do it anymore because of that disease. And you know what sport she picked to continue. She said, so I don't fall into the hole. Indoor skydiving, and then it was a. Can we show video number 3? It's bad quality, but I think this was really also something that, yeah, it's a piece done by the BBC and.
I will do the indoor skydiving. It's a really, really lovely experience. I had to quit with my top sports, and I was very scared for a deep black hole, but this feels so great, and I'm so happy that I find another sport. You see your wheelchair standing outside and you are flying like a bird. So, yeah, it's really an awesome feeling.
Thank you very much. It gives me the shivers. Did you see this? Did you notice? I mean, she was really an athlete, and it helped her. And I think this was a very productive exchange we had. Thank you very much for really contributing your tremendous expertise. I'm dead certain we're going to see another records broadcast coming out of Birmingham. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there? Yes. And really, I think this was great in terms of our did we achieve anything? Probably not. But like we gave a few impulses. And a lot of times people were mentioning thinking outside of the box. Sometimes you have to do that, and we could have just one more discipline. It doesn't really matter. It could be this breaking. No. All right. On this note, thank you very much for being with us here today. You were a great audience. Tomorrow the food is going to be warm. They promised me. I apologize for that. We're going to start at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. All our panelists, basically, as soon as we're done here, we're going to go to a restaurant all together. It's the only way you're going to eat here in town. We hired the entire restaurant. And we're going to eat at a very early Spanish hour, I think. We're going to have some snacks first, and then at 7 o'clock we're going to eat. And,
7 o'clock in Spain, this is in the afternoon.
I mean, I haven't had anything since 5 o'clock this morning.
He knows people.
So. Yeah. All right, thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.